Welcome to another edition of Answers for the Family. I'm your host, Allen Cardoza, and each week this show will bring on special guests that can inspire, educate, and in some cases entertain, while bringing answers and options to making our lives happier, healthier, and more successful. Now, Answers for the Family will address many ways of creating greater health, joy, and love for you and your family. We will introduce you to top professionals and talented authors who are working to make this world a better place for all of us. Now, I would really appreciate it if you would all do me a big favor. Please forward at least one of our shows to your social media groups and to someone you know that can benefit from today's subject. This is one powerful way that we, together, can make a positive difference in the world. Now, before we get to our guest, I want you to know that I am grateful to all of you who take your precious time to listen to this show, and especially those who send in questions, comments, and suggestions. Please remember, this show exists for you. And with that in mind, if there was ever a time in recent years that we needed to focus on gratitude, this is the time. Now, my son Chase and I wrote the Attitude of Gratitude Journal, something that at the time was geared toward teens going through some changes in their life. Well, guess what? We're all going through changes in our lives. So please go to our website at answersforthefamily.com and download a free copy. It is our gift to you. All I ask is that you subscribe, which is for free, and give it 21 days, and then comment on whatever platform you listen to us on, what it has meant for you and your family. Now, a quote, although not from the journal, it is by our guest, who, after losing a large portion of her sight at 13 years old, it has shown me how many things are possible. Life is what you make of it, not what you have, it's what you make of what you have. Now, I also have an extra treat today. I just learned over the weekend that a friend of mine just released a new book. So we plan on booking him and one of his co-writers as guests for the show in a couple of months. But in the meantime, I asked him to guest co-host with me today and share with all of us what he's up to. Now, I know Carl as an independent film writer, producer, and director. Now, with at least 6 films to his credit, and that he holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest wedding dress train used in a film. So Carl, now, did you know that you'd be working, I didn't know you were working on a book the last few years, and certainly not with the world-renowned physicist, Dr. Goswami. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and what got you involved in it?
Yes. It started with the brain documentary that I was actually doing, and this book was a branch of it. And a lot of people were asking me about overcoming obstacles, because there was many that I've overcome. And I have several different mentors that have assisted me in the way. And they said, write a book. I said, I'll wait till the movie comes out. And then with this whole downturn, I figured, hey, why don't we just knock this book out, since we already started about 2 years ago. And I wanted to combine the spiritual and the scientific. They seem to be at odds. And the main reason why they're at odds is because every time science proves something, they take it off the bucket of spirituality. Like, let's say, for example, acupuncture. Acupuncture was just a crazy healing art where they just poke you with needles. Once it became monetized in the science, and once the insurance company started accepting it, now it's science. It's no longer on the spiritual side. So that's the main reason why science seems to always outweigh the spiritual part. And here's the copy of the book, right here. And the reason why I'll hold it up for a couple more seconds. The reason why I got Dr. Goswami is because he's a quantum activist, and the reason why I got Gary is he's a world-renowned spiritual constellation healer. So we got those together.
Okay. Now, as many listeners know, if anybody's listened to this for any amount of time, they know that I'm very interested in brain health. So, after the book, comes out, things like that, obviously we want to have you back on, and we want to be able to talk more about the movie as well. So for those that can't wait till you're back on the show, and we're going to go into greater depth, not only the book, but the movie, where can they order it? Where can they get it?
Amazon. You can order Amazon.com. I do have a video trailer on Carl David Blake Films on YouTube. Just go to Carl David Blake Films and look at the video trailer, and the links to Amazon are right in the body of it. So you can get it through there.
All right, that's great. And again, thank you for taking the time. I know I got you at the last minute to be able to jump in on this, but I just wanted to get that information out there. And as I said, I'm going to talk to my producer. We're going to get you on. We're going to go in much deeper because I love what you're doing. But we're going to go into now, we're going to go into our topic today, which is also the title of our guest's new book, which is Shine Brighter Every Day, Nourish Your Body, Feed Your Spirit, and Balance Your Life. Our guest, Danah Mor, has unique and diverse credentials. She holds a degree from Ayurvedic medicine which is from the Medical University at Manipal. She's a certified health practitioner and has dedicated her life to helping others realize their health goals with her positive, simple approach that banishes guilt and reframes relationships with food in a sustainable and realistic way. Now, born to an Israeli father and South African mother, Danah has traveled extensively across the globe, learning from different cultures and teachers about how to live well. Now, she's fluent in 7 languages, which is incredible to me, and she has lived in Paris, Madrid, London, West Palm Beach, Florida, and Los Angeles, working with people of all walks of life, including top models, actors, directors, and singers in the entertainment industry. Danah, welcome to Answers for the Family.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So where are you at now? Where are you at today?
I'm in Portugal, in the country of Cristiano Ronaldo. That's how people know Portugal, right? So I'm living in Portugal at the moment, near Lisbon. It's beautiful here. It's actually evening time now, around 7 p.m.
Well, it's one of the few countries that I haven't been to, but I look forward to. So let's set the stage. So for those that haven't read the book, tell us a little bit about your life and what got you to this point.
It's always such a roller coaster question. I'm like, wow, where to start? Well, I think in a nutshell, what I wanted to create with the book was to create like a simple, practical guide that demystified a lot of kind of confusion, because health is one of the most controversial topics that is available nowadays. And with all the information and the access to information that we have online, it can get so confusing and people don't know what to do. And where we find ourselves as a global community today is where we're so disconnected from ourselves. So people actually don't know how to listen to themselves to know what they need to do. They usually look it up online. Mm-hmm. You know, if I have a stomachache, what could it be? Like, instead of just thinking about it, it's always like, Google's going to tell me. And so when I was young, I was aware that our body and our thoughts, and my mom really brought me up this way to understand that everything in life affected the way we felt. But I saw very young, in my adolescence years, that other people didn't have the same education. You know, people felt bad and they would take a pill, or they didn't understand that this was like everything was interrelated. So I wanted to study. I realized that I had an understanding that other people didn't have, and I wanted to teach people about it. Like, my biggest passion is simplifying information for people, simplifying life for everyone. Like, when I can show someone how things can be simple, that gives me passion, that gives me joy, that makes me happy. So when I understood that I had something that I could simplify things, and I went into studying Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is one of the coolest medicines in the world. Why? Because you don't have to study. You don't have to be like, have a master's in science or in nutrition to understand how to take care of yourself. I always call it's the medicine of the people. It teaches you how to understand your own body so that you can understand what are the imbalances that are happening inside of your body, and how the external environment, how food, how your lifestyle, even the weather, how that could be affecting your internal environment. And that makes so much sense. Like, if you're traveling in a hot country and you're used to cold countries, you would understand, oh, this might be happening internally due to the external weather. And so it really helps to understand in a very basic, simple way how to start taking care of your body, how to understand your mentality, your behavior, everything. And that just became a passion. And then as I continued, I wanted to study more. I wanted to go deeper into the modern food industry and understand how modern nutrition affected our body and what was the truth behind everything. So I could say like my book is kind of like a manifesto. It's a guide. It's like the A to Z to thriving in this 21st century as a busy, busy person that has little time. We all have little time. We all have less connection than we used to ourselves. So it's like how to live more in harmony with our body and with nature without giving up the comfort and the commodities of, you know, modern life. So you don't have to go live in the jungle. You don't have to do yoga 8 hours a day. It's like how to understand simple concepts and get back to yourself. And
now, I was going to say, how would you describe, or how would you compare your teachings to that of a functional medicine doctor?
They're not. So what I would say, what really differentiates the way I teach is I simplify concepts to make them fun and memorable. So in the sense, although I'm a scientist, I like to make things fun. I have 3 mantras. And my first mantra is like, life is a joy. And if it's not a joy, then it's not worth living. So I think what differentiates mainly is that I make everything exciting. I make everything fun. I make you want to do it. You don't feel like you're going to a doctor. You're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to eat green vegetables. I didn't know that they were liquid sunshine. Like, I get people excited about themselves. And like my first chapter in the book is listen to your body. Your body is trying to tell you something that nobody else can. And it's about cherishing what you already have and understanding the connection that you've lost. Because the truth is, there is no one that's an expert on your body other than you. I mean, a functional medical doctor, a medical doctor, like anyone, they're experts in the concepts and theories. But in practice, in reality, in experience, the only one that is an expert on something, on my body is me, on your body, it's you. And so that's what I try to empower people into understanding. When they work with me, when you read my book, that's where you should be coming to, a place where you feel in yourself like, okay, I'm going to reconnect to myself. I'm going to learn and understand the realities of the external world, understand the wisdom of ancient medicine, and combine it with the immaculate understanding of modern medicine. How did industrial revolution, how did that affect our food? How did it affect our life? And try and protect as much as possible, but in a simple way, and banishing guilt, because so many of the diet books nowadays, so many of health books really make you feel bad about what you're doing. They make you feel bad about how you're living. And if anything, I think we are the most, and I'm going to be careful saying this, but we are the most mentally ill generation, I think. People feel bad about everything, and we find it very hard to be joyful. Like, you know, the most people, like, I have a rule that the first thing we talk about is always what's good and new. And it's really hard for people to come to that idea. Like, they always want to talk about what they still need to learn or what they haven't been able to do yet. And so it's very much concentrated on the positive, on what do we have and what can we eat and what is great and what is fantastic. And if you want to eat an ice cream once in a while, hell, go ahead. Like, that's not the end of the world. So it's really about something that's supposed to be sustainable, that's supposed to last for lots and lots and lots of years.
Carl?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, with all the modalities out there, why Ayurvedic? Why did that attract you? You know, as compared to Chinese, there's all sorts of different modalities, and today they call it integrative medicine because they don't like to call it alternative, because they're not saying, obviously, you don't go to your doctor if you break your arm. But why Ayurveda? Danah, I would love to ask you that question.
So Ayurveda, the reason Ayurveda, I was actually introduced to Ayurveda when I was quite young. We used to go to Israel. So my dad is from Israel, and we would go to Israel every summer. And my mom had a really good friend that was an Ayurvedic 3rd generation doctor. So in India, medicine was, you were born into a family of doctors. It was passed on like royalty and other things. And so he was a 3rd generation baby Ayurvedic baby doctor. His grandfather was very, very renowned doctor in Agra, near just opposite the Taj Mahal in India. And he actually moved to Israel, and he was living there. And what happened is Ayurveda So I'll just rewind a second and say that as a kid, I was a really happy kid. And when I'd go on holiday to Israel, every summer, the same thing would happen is at midday, more or less, I would start to get into a really grumpy mood. I would get heat rashes on holiday and I wasn't that happy. And something really weird was going on. And when I met Dr. Varma G, which is like, I love him, I'm still in touch with him. He explained me my body. I was about 8 years old. And he explained me like what was happening in my body, that I had a lot of fire and that my family didn't have the same constitution as me. So like I was really hungry at a certain time and it was really hot and I had to eat on time. And that in the summer I should take care not to overheat and that I should eat a lot of watermelon and eat cooling foods. And this changed my life. I never had a heat rash again. I never felt uncomfortable. I never got overheated and I never got grumpy because I was hungry. Ayurveda knew me better than I knew myself. I was like, how? How can something know you better than you know yourself? And I continue to meet people and I will tell them like, I'll describe something. They'll say, oh, I have this, this, and this. And I'll be like, oh, you probably have these other issues. And they're like, how do you know that? So for me, Ayurveda is a gateway to understanding the mental, the emotional, your behavioral, and your physical patterns and your predispositions in such a natural and easy to understand way. So when I learned it for myself, it was just incredible that I was actually be able to put it in practice. But when I started to understand, like when I started to get to the age of like 15, 16, where I was like, okay, well, how do I teach? How can I help more people? And I studied nutrition and I thought it was so complex. Like you need to learn about zinc to understand, and then what foods are high in zinc, and then to understand another food, like, and then what does zinc do? And it was so technical. And I was like, people are never going to understand how to take care of themselves just like by studying science. So Ayurveda for me was like the simplest form to teach thousands at the same time. Like if the basic concepts of Ayurveda were put into schools, everyone would be happier.
No doubt.
I couldn't agree more.
No doubt. Well, so the schools need all the help they can get.
Yes. Yeah. Now,
so that answers your question. Did I answer your question? Is that
yes.
good?
Yes. Yes.
Definitely. And now you also write in the book about cravings, and you talked a little bit about the things that you were going through. Can you give those of us that are either chocoholics or just have constant cravings for sweets some advice on how to kick that sugar habit? Because that seems to be one of the biggest issues in Western society now. Everything has sugar in it, and there's been studies that show that it's actually more addicting than heroin. So
oh yeah, it's more addictive than cocaine for sure.
Yes,
I talk about it.
Yep.
Well, my answer to this is like, sometimes I guess some people are like, okay, so she's gonna tell us a food that we can eat that'll stop us wanting sugar. So one of the things that I can say is a lot of people are starving themselves of sugar in itself. And when I say sugar, I mean complex carbohydrates. So on a food level, a lot of people are trying to eat a high fat, high protein diets, and they're not actually getting the amount of sugar that their body needs. We need not, when I say sugar, I'm gonna just call it complex carbohydrates, which means whole grain, 100% whole grain, quinoa, millet, all kinds of whole grains. And there's a lot of cringe around this because paleo diets, and there's so many things going on, but it's really about feeling how your body functions with those things. But I can say that when I stopped like starving my body of complex carbs, my sugar cravings went down. But that's just the answer for some people that want to hear about food. But my real answer to that question, Alan, is about, so my perspective is that how we choose to eat doesn't have much to do with what we're eating. How we choose to eat has a lot to do with how we feel and how our mind is set. And a lot of people say like, oh, my father had diabetes, I could have diabetes. And I say, well, it's not genetic. It's not genetics that's going to play a role in that. What's genetic is the way you act, the way you live, and the way you eat. That's genetic. So if you eat and do what your dad and your grandmother did and they had diabetes, you're probably going to have diabetes too.
Right.
So it's not that it's in your genes. It's what you do and how you eat that is genetic. And that is what's going to cause you to have a certain situation in your life. So there are a lot of studies in the university that show that changing just your calorie intake will change your gene exposure. So going back to your question, the way we eat has so much to do with how we feel in ourselves and the way we are set in our mind. And so when I have people that have cravings, I usually don't talk about the craving itself. I go to a concept which in my book is chapter 12. It's called It's Not All About Food. And it's one of my editor was her favorite her favorite chapter. It introduces the concept that we have two types of food. We have primary foods and secondary foods. And primary foods are not actually things that we put in our mouth. They're the food in life that really, really feeds our body, our soul, our person. And so secondary foods are edible. But when we are feeding ourselves and nourishing ourselves on the real things that are important in life, physical food actually becomes secondary. It becomes less important. And this concept changed my life because really, and it's changed so many people's lives by understanding that food is actually there. Do you live to eat or do you eat to live? And understanding what is the relationship that you actually have with food? How do you treat food? Is it like a drug? Is it there to kind of make you feel better? Is it there to down the emotions you're feeling? Is it there to numb you? What is the relationship you have with food? And I do this in a very subtle way. So we're not confronting ourselves. We are simply trying to understand what are the type of primary foods, what are the most important foods that are non-physical, how are we nourishing ourselves on those levels? And those include, I mean, if you had audience like that could answer, people really know what these things are. What are the things that make you happy? What are the things that when you are doing them, you don't think about food, you even forget to have dinner or lunch or breakfast or whatever. Like when we were a kid back in the day and you'd be playing in the garden, you didn't remember, like people had to call you to tell you it was time to eat.
Right. Oh, I agree. Now, one of the things that I do on this show and people that listen a lot know, I like to do what I call my magic wand. So if I'm handing you a magic wand, let me see, there we go. So I'm handing you a magic wand. What would the top two changes that you would make that would make the biggest difference on the mental and physical health of human beings?
Oh my God, I feel like I have like a genie, 2 wishes, right? You
Yes.
said 2 changes?
Yes.
I think I've always said that if biology was taught in schools, like compulsory, but in a fun way, all through school, like from child, like if everyone knew how their liver functioned and how their kidneys functioned, people would be so much more appreciative of how hard the body works to make us feel just normal. Like when we feel nauseous or down or depressed, it's our liver not functioning properly. So if we knew how hard it worked, so I often say like that biology should be compulsory. But when I say biology, it's human physiology. So it's the physiology of how our body functions and how hard it works just to make us feel normal. How hard our lymph system works just to vacuum all the crap out of our body. So I think that would be one of the things that would make it compulsory, but fun. Science, like biology, is so exciting. I love talking about it, but you need to make it fun. Otherwise it gets boring. So that would be one of the things. And I think the other thing would be that did you say about schools? Well, the question was about schools, right?
It doesn't have to be schools. You have the magic wand, so you can use it any way you want.
Oh my God. Well, I think education is the best weapon we have in the world, to change things. So I think it would be most about schools but I think it would be a lot about nature, like appreciating and spending more time in nature. I think the connection that we've lost with ourselves comes a lot to do with the Industrial Revolution and our parents being out of the house all the time, and humans, like we don't live in communities anymore. So it's like you only know your mom and your dad and your brother and your sister and then maybe a few more friends. And we don't spend, so we became disconnected from the reality of what we live. We've become disconnected from how long it takes for a tomato to grow, or even to know what happens. And spending more time outdoors is so magical. It's so magical. So at the top of my head, because I'm kind of here, like put on the spot, I haven't really thought about it. I'm sure like after the show, I'll be like, oh, I should have said this, or I should have said that. But at the top of my head, I think those are the 2 things. connecting more to the reality of, to the magic of nature and to the magic of biology and what happens in our body and how things happen outside of our body in this beautiful planet and this beautiful universe.
Well,
I think would reconnect us a little bit.
and I want to share one of the reasons why I love that so much, because both of them really are about empowering people. Too many times people think if they have a magic wand that they're somehow going to control people, or they're going to make things happen by themselves. What I love is what you're saying, which is what I agree with completely. I'm going to empower people to be able to come to these decisions on their own. And that to me is the most powerful thing. So I absolutely love it. Now we're going to take a break. So for everybody out there, stay with us. I have with me Carl David Blake, that is producer, director, writer. He is my guest co-host. Our guest is Danah Mor. The book is called Shine Brighter Every Day. So we'll be right back. You're listening to Answers for the Family.
Founded over 30 years ago to meet the needs of families in crisis, West Shield has continually focused on resolving issues that negatively impact families and businesses. Our signature therapeutic transportation service helps to ensure that adolescents in crisis are safely transported to specialized schools, programs, and treatment centers with unsurpassed experience and success. We are supported by our full-service licensed investigation agency that has legally, professionally, and compassionately located hundreds of runaways and teens. We are experienced and qualified to help, offering solutions which may include referrals to our international network of top professionals in the fields of educational consulting, psychology, psychiatry, and investigations. Simply put, West Shield Adolescent Services and West Shield Investigations are the best solutions when your family is facing a personal crisis. Call 1-800-899-8585, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's 1-800-899-8585, or visit our website at westshield.com. Thank you.
And we're back. I'm Allen Cardoza, and with me is Carl Blake and Danah Mor. Now we are talking about really everything that you can do to help your life, but we're starting with food. And Danah, one of the things that I'm a firm believer on, and that is in shifting our country to regenerative farming and subsidizing farmers for growing organic fruits and vegetables rather than doing what appears to be just the opposite. So unfortunately, right now, organic foods are currently more expensive. How would you advise someone to eat healthy on a budget? And what are the most important things you think they should do?
Okay, so, well, of course, what you're saying is so important. It'd be so amazing if we could do that shift, and not only in the US, but all around the world. I think it's such an obvious step that we need to do, but there's obviously lots of interest for the opposite. When we're on a budget and we want to be healthier, and I know you didn't ask me this question, it was about buying organic, but I just wanted to like stick it in here that making green smoothies is such an amazing thing you can do. And if you are interested, I run a lot of free challenges on my social media, mainly Instagram and Facebook, if you like Facebook, but mainly on Instagram. And so if you look up, like either go on my website, or if you go Danah Mor on Instagram, and that's DANAHMOR. You can always be part of my free challenges that run every few months. And basically putting in a green smoothie is a really economical way of really getting a lot of great greens into your life, and great vegetables and great fiber and all kind of amazing stuff that support your liver and your kidneys and all the organs that we really want to be supporting. But to answer your question, Alan, there is an amazing association that I love, and I mentioned them in my book too, the EWG, the Environmental Working Group. And they have created an amazing list, which is also in my book. It's in chapter 8, Cut the Crap chapter. Which is basically a list. It's called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And a lot of people, many of us in the area, we know of these lists. They're a great way, like it's the 15 kind of clean vegetables that if you don't want to buy everything organic, these are the 15 that are least sprayed, that are least contaminated, that their skin is quite thick of the vegetable or the fruit. And so they don't really absorb as many toxins and as many pesticides as the dirty dozen do. So the dirty dozen, if you are going to buy organic, the dirty dozen are the top vegetables and fruits that you do want to be buying if you're buying organic. And these include like spinach and celery and strawberries and peaches and those kind of vegetables that have a really thin skin, like cucumbers too. And so that's a great resource to use if you are looking to buy organic. However, I don't put that much, like in Europe, organic is growing every day, but it's still not available for everyone. And a lot of people are like, well, what if I can't get my vegetables organic or my fruits? Should I not buy them? And I just want to put this out there. Eating vegetables and fruit is far better than not eating them. So even if you're not buying, if organic is not available to you, or if you can't invest in organic vegetables and fruits, that's fine. Get your dose of vegetables and fruits into your body on a daily basis, and like forget organic if that's an issue. And sorry, Alan, I don't know if you agree, but I really like to say that because a lot of people become obsessive about being perfect, and they're like, well, if it's not organic and it has toxins on it, I don't want to have it.
Well,
and I think
and I completely agree with you, because if you have somebody that goes, okay, well, I can't get organic, okay, don't go out and get, a hamburger and French fries because you can't get organic, and when you can still get, apples and oranges and grapes that
exactly
that are organic. So yes, I understand what you're saying. It makes perfect sense.
And just to add to the practical part, if you can't get organic and you have to buy, like if you're going to buy apples and some salad or spinach or whatever, you can soak it in a big, like if you put a big kind of tub or in your sink, and you put cold water with some bicarbonate soda or some apple cider vinegar, and leave it in there for about 20 minutes. It really helps to deactivate the pesticides. And then you can scrub your vegetables and they will be much less contaminated than otherwise. So there's always a solution. Don't stress out if you can't afford organic or if you don't have it available to you.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I would even add to that for anybody that has like an alkaline water machine, washing your food in that also helps to get rid of some of the toxins. So I agree.
Exactly.
Carl?
Yeah, one of the films I did, one of the last documentaries actually, was wild edible plants. And most of the plants that we use today are not as healthy as some of the plants that we're not even aware of. There are over 60 to 70,000 wild edible plants, and we consume about maybe 20 different vegetables, make up about 93% of our foods. So I was going to ask Danah, what do you think about the wild edible plants, and have you explored that at all?
It's an amazing, I think as time goes by, like people are becoming more aware of it, and actually some more wild vegetables are becoming available in urban areas. I don't know, I have no idea for the States. I was in LA a bunch of years ago, so I haven't been back there recently. I think it is so different to get vegetables that come from nature as well, that are not grown in a monoculture environment. And for the people that are listening that don't understand what that means, so if you have like a broccoli that absorbs a certain nutrient, like a vitamin A, a lot of vitamin A, and it's being planted in the same soil over time, that soil will be depleted of vitamin A because it's only been taking out the same vitamin all the time. And that's the same. So zinc is so depleted in the soils nowadays that most of us are zinc deficient. And so when we're eating vegetables that come from the wild, or when we're creating like a polycultured garden or something, that's so much more interesting. And I think giving back to the soil is so important. I do composting for more than 20 years almost. Before I ever thought about having a garden, I just loved the idea of composting. And it's one of my dreams is actually to create community composting in cities. It's so easy, and you could have like little kind of compost areas in the middle of the city that were closed off, because that just gives back, that you're giving back to the earth. You're giving back all the nutrients to the earth. So I think that is so interesting about wild vegetables. And it's so true that we consume such a small percentage of what actually exists in the world. I remember here in Portugal, there's dandelion, and there's another one, I don't know the name in English, but they're like weeds that people like try to get rid of in their gardens and stuff. Arugula was like a complete weed. Yeah. When I was young, no one ate arugula, and now it's like a fancy green. It's interesting to see how we move and how people don't appreciate it when it's there, but when it becomes like a fancy trend, suddenly everyone wants it. But I definitely think it's something exploring. I think it's especially for small farmers, like it would be something so interesting to explore. And definitely, I completely agree with you. It's almost sad, like we consume such a small percentage of what exists in the world.
Now, I really think that's amazing, and what you're saying, because on my movie, it's just a short film. You could also get it on my YouTube channel, Carl David Blake Films. One of the things that we realized was there are so many that the crazy part about it is there are people who are spraying the weeds in their garden with cancer-causing chemicals, and the weeds are wild edible plants that cure cancer. Is that not insane? Yes. And so once the way I got into it, it was my uncle would take us around to all these farms, and I went to this one farm, and the guy said, I'm going to give you some vegetables to eat. And we walked towards his garden. He said, no, that's too easy. So we went out in the woods, and he pulled all the stuff off the trees, rinsed it off, put it in a big bowl, balsamic vinaigrette dressing, and it was the best thing I ever had. I could not identify any of those. So that was more of a kind of an honor to my uncle taking us around. But there are tons of them in Los Angeles. Yeah, like 2,000 wild edible plants. So I just go over maybe 4 or 5 of them. But it's very interesting. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, a lot of people don't understand what that compost is. Could you explain just briefly what a compost pile is, and just briefly? If that would be great.
Okay, so basically all your vegetables and your fruit. So I like to keep it vegan just to keep rats away. And when I mean vegan, means like no bones. So all the leftovers, like when you peel your vegetables, the skin of the onions, the banana peel, all that vegetable kind of peel and any leftovers from dinner can go back into the ground, and will take really short time. It takes about a month to turn into ground. And it turns into really, really amazing black dirt that is perfect to fertilize your own land or fertilize anything. So there in Spain, in the north of Spain, they managed to put in composting into like the town. And there's like a whole project that I would love to have the time and energy to just focus on that. I know that I will do at one point, but composting is basically taking the leftovers and the skins of the vegetables and any spoiled vegetables and fruits and putting them back into the earth. So you can either make like a hole in your ground, and you can just keep putting it there. It needs to be away from like where you're hanging out, because some flies will come, and the flies and the bugs are important because they're the ones that are going to transform those vegetables that are getting spoiled into amazing earth that then you can use to fertilize your land or fertilize your garden, or use to repot plants or to make a little herb garden or whatever it is you want to do. And as I was saying, I try not to put any, if there's any bones or any things of like meat you're eating, not to put that in. It can be good for the earth, but it will just bring other types of bugs, and it could bring some rats. So keeping it like plant-based is ideal if you're doing it in your garden.
We have a couple of questions that have come in, and these come in either through instant message or through email. Again, these are listeners that oftentimes I've been told are teachers and such that are working in the middle of the day, so they send these in ahead of time. And again, I want to thank them for taking the time to do this. This first one reads, I have battled with emotional eating my entire life. Nothing I have tried, from hypnotherapy to cutting out sugar and carbs to various de-stressing programs, has made any long-term difference. I would really like to get slim again in a very healthy way without these incessant cravings. I have shelves of diets and self-help books, but will certainly buy your book. What would be a solution you would have for me? And this is from Sally in Oregon.
Hi, Sally. Thanks for your question. I think that the first thing you can do is to first take it easy on yourself, and stop beating ourselves up. Like, it's one of the first things we have to start doing is to hug. My sister used to say, like give yourself cuddles and treat yourself like you treat your dog. Like, hug yourself and be kind to yourself, and don't be upset with yourself, and don't think that you're doing something wrong, because you really aren't. You're just doing the best that you can at that moment. I like to always find out when is it that we are craving a certain food. So I would say, like, start to pay attention to yourself when it is that you're craving certain foods, and find out what it is that you're really hungry for on those moments. And if you really need help, I give private consultations, and I also give group like courses. So if you really need deeper help, you can always like shout out to me. I'm available on Instagram or on my website, which is danahmor.com. And Danah is spelled Danahmor. But if you really need help, I can always give you more personal help. Otherwise, start to become consciousness is the best. It's the most liberating thing in the world. It is true liberation. It's true freedom, is to be conscious. So when we're getting a craving and we try to ask ourselves, what's happening right now? I want an ice cream. Why? Why do I want an ice cream? Oh, because I feel frustrated. Why do I feel frustrated? Because I wish I was earning more money. Okay, so how can I find out that I can figure something out for this issue that's bothering me? And once I figure it out, like the moment I realize, I might be like, oh yeah, actually I don't really need an ice cream right now. I just need to go do something else. So, or maybe what you're craving is movement, or maybe what you're craving is a hug, or it's a nice word, or it's a nice deeper conversation. So in the book, I say, like, when you're craving something, ask yourself what you're really hungry for. Go and drink some water, go and write a book, go and call a friend, do something else that will feed you in a deeper way, and start to ask yourself the question about what's happening when you are craving a certain food. It's not bad to crave. I have cravings, and sometimes I allow, like, if I'm craving something sweet, like an ice cream, which is my favorite kind of junk food, I don't not allow myself to have it, but it's on a special occasion. So it's not on a daily basis. And when I'm craving it on other times, I'll make sure I'll be like, okay, what's happening? Why are you upset? What's going on? And, so if it's really hot outside and I really want an ice cream, I know it's got to do with the heat. And I'm like, okay, you need to cool yourself down. You're too hot. But if it's something else, and that really helps you start to understand the relationship and how your body functions. So I think consciousness is the first step, and it's the first step towards anything, is to really become aware what is happening behind the craving. I hope that was
perfect sense. We've got about a minute and a half, and I've got another question that came in. This one reads, my 21-year-old niece is a beautiful girl, but she has gained 30 pounds since graduating high school, and she claims that it will not come off regardless of how much she has tried to diet. You talk about one's relationship to food, and I feel that the increasing embarrassment over her body is a tremendous issue for her. I bought her your book. It says, no, I bought your book for my sister on Kindle and paperback copy for my niece. I'm hoping that you can advise us on how we can inspire her to read it and not feel embarrassed about it, and to really take it seriously. And this is from Carol in New Mexico.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for your message. So if she's young and she's on Instagram, definitely get her to start following my project. Yes. Because it's really about uncovering, first of all, the objective is never, so I have some people that come to me with an objective to lose weight. And what I always say is weight is not an issue. Weight is only a symptom that something is not functioning properly inside of our body. So let's focus on what is the issue. And the issue is health. So what the best thing you can say to her is that Danah's project, my project, which is called More Life, my project is not about being perfect, having a perfect image. It's about beauty from the inside out. It's about feeling amazing. And when you feel amazing, you will look amazing, because that's how you feel. It's from the inside out. And so you can tell her it's not about diet. It's not a diet. It's not even a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's a way of feeling. It's a state of being. The whole book is about how you feel. And she doesn't have to, she can just read my introduction. Tell her to read my introduction so she can just get to know me a little, and she will feel more like at ease. But the important thing is it's not about how she looks. And that's the most important thing. It's like each day that goes by, I feel like it's more important. I feel like there's a calling for me to start work with young girls, actually, because I get so many messages from girls that are like, I'm overweight, I want to commit suicide, like terrible things, just because of how they look. And as day goes by, more and more influencers are completely plastic. And more as day goes by, people think that's normal, and it's not normal. Like, being overweight is not a problem. It's only a symptom that you are unhealthy. So if the motivation is to be healthy, everything is going to be okay. Our body is amazing. It has the most amazing capacity to change, it's so forgiving. If your niece makes a decision, what's her name, Alan? What's the niece's name?
I don't think she said what the niece's name was.
So niece, if you're listening, niece, the most amazing thing you can understand in yourself is just that you can change anything. There's nothing in your body that you can't change. Even healing cancer is possible. And as many people as can say that it's not, it is. I've met people that have changed their physical body by their intention. So don't be afraid of what has to come. Make a decision of what you want. And if you want to feel good, then you will enjoy reading my book. And my book is not about giving yourself crap for what you've done. It's about creating space so that you can do what you really want to do. And that's why it's called Shine Brighter, and not like lose weight or anything like that.
Exactly. And the book is just really the way that you are, which is, it's all about empowering people, again. Exactly. That's why I was so impressed with it. But for everybody out there, unfortunately, we're out of time. But again, if you're going to go, it's DAHA.
No.
What?
Redo that. Take two.
Okay. DANAHMOR.com. Correct?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, and for those of you that are driving, you can go to answersforthefamily.com. We will have all of her information there. So don't try to write this down if you're driving. But again, Danah, thank you so much. Carl, thank you so much. And for everybody. And
thank you, Alan. Thank you so much, Danah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And Danah, we'd love to have you back. If there's something that's coming up that you would like to share with everybody after the first of the year, please stay in touch with us. I love what you're doing. Thanks. You're exactly what this show wants to project. Empowering people to be the best they can. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And Carl, I want your contact. I want to come and check out your gardens.
Oh, I will give you, yes. We'll contact for sure, because I do have a huge story I got to tell you.
Okay. I want to get, once COVID is once I can travel, I'm coming over.
There you go. And if you make it to Southern California, you have to let us know.
Yes.
We'll take care of it.
Deal.
All right.
Deal.
Thank you. For everybody,
thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Please join us next Monday when we're joined by Dr. Matthew Godovan and Tom Roberts, the founders of Vitanova Biomedical. And one of the reasons why this is so incredible is this is the second time they've been on the show. They were on the show about 3 years ago, or at least Matthew was. They are doing incredible things as it relates to curing cancer. So Matt and Tom, they're going to discuss their advanced therapy that uses light therapy with a unique compound to trigger cancer cells' death. It actually teaches cancer cells to commit suicide. So the process has successfully achieved 81 to 100% cell death within 2 hours in breast cancer. So, and including the very aggressive triple negative breast cancer. It's also worked with prostate cancers and pancreatic cancer. And so if, in this day and age, I think everybody knows somebody that is struggling with this. So if you do, please let them know, listen to the show next week. And please visit our archives of past interviews. You can do that at answersforthefamily.com, or you can subscribe to the show through iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, YouTube, Spreaker, and SoundCloud. If you like what you hear, please leave a review. It helps us reach more people, and I want you to know that we greatly appreciate it. The next time you're on Facebook or Twitter, please remember to stop by our page, check out some of our latest posts. If you like them, please like us and spread the word. For everybody out there, be good human beings, and be with us again next week on Answers for the Family.
You're listening to Answers for the Family with Allen Cardoza, right here on LA Talk Radio.